that these defense attorneys would be more willing to listen to a possible plea deal after being convicted of this case. Behind me here, this is defense attorney Tom Plunkett and Robert Pauley for two of the defendants walking by. Earl Gray, the defendant for Thomas Lane, walking by just a moment ago. In the state case, which has been postponed until this summer as of right now, where they're charged with aiding and abetting Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd, at this point, the state would probably be well served to offer a plea bargain to get them to plead guilty, because the chances are that the penalties that they face in this federal case are higher than what they would face if found guilty in state court. So that's something we definitely got to keep an eye on. Yeah, and I think the first thing to talk about, I think, is what potential penalties look like, because I'm personally unclear on that, and perhaps you can shed some light on that. So my question, because that was on the verdict form and that was part of what Judge Magnuson asked them to determine, and they said unanimously that they agree that the offense and the conduct caused the death of George Floyd, does that mean Judge Magnuson has to give 30 years to life or 25 years, which Derek Chauvin is looking at here, or does he have enough discretion to go lower if he feels that's appropriate?
Yeah, and that's a key component of these crimes that the jury had to decide the way it's written here. And I've got the language up here right in front of me. So for count 2, where it reads that the defendants willfully failed to intervene to stop defendant Chauvin's use of unreasonable force, and that resulted in the death of George Floyd. So what they had to determine, the judge was very clear in the instructions, this came up honestly in the closing arguments from all the attorneys, is that they had to decide that these defendants knew what they were doing wrong, they knew what they were supposed to be doing, and they knew that they were doing that, and they knew that that was the wrong thing to do. So for count 2, when we look against 2 counts, they had to decide that they knew they should intervene, and they willfully decided not to intervene. That was force, and they had to prove
Yeah, Tom, one of my impressions, and I was thinking about this, if they were going to come forward with a guilty verdict like they have, is that, does that say to you anything about the evidence in this case? I mean, that video making it so obvious and so clear to this jury that the duty to intervene was plain as day, so much so that it's baked into our Constitution. Yeah, so down here on the lobby floor of the federal courthouse, the U.S. Attorney's Office is expected to start speaking. So if they do in short order here, we'll definitely take that live. A couple things to note throughout this trial, George Floyd's girlfriend, Courtney Ross, was in attendance, as well as other family members here and there. The defendants themselves also had family members present throughout the trial. Thomas Lane's pregnant wife was in attendance. J. Alexander King's mother actually testified, and Tu Tao had family members and friends in support of him here as well. I think a couple things that I need to find out from the pool reporter is whether they were taken into custody immediately after the verdict, because in the room here, we were not shown, we weren't ever actually shown the defendants. So I was only able to see the defendants when I was up in the actual courtroom. But that's one thing that we'll take a look at. And I mean, I think the look on the face of the defense attorneys as they walked by here was that of shock. Okay.
There were some different witnesses, and the one that really stood out to me was the medical that the prosecution brought in. Actually, they brought in a couple of medical.
Yeah, we're waiting for that right now. I do have the pool notes now that give a description of how the defendants reacted to the verdict, so I'll just kind of straight read that here. It says, King looks straight on, Lane drops something at his table and sits back. Gray shakes his head. One of the jurors was crying. They polled the jury, which means they went through and asked each of them individually, was this your verdict? So one of them was crying as she said yes. Earl Gray swivels his chair to look at Polly. One of the women in the front row is dabbing her eyes. It does not sound like they were taken immediately into custody. It doesn't specify, but I think they would have specified that if that was the case. So Tao doesn't react, he's still. Those are the reactions from the three defendants. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay.
People calling me?
One person did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I could still hear though.
Okay.
It doesn't completely like take away.
Yeah. Because my personal phone, you can't hear it as good. So I figured I'll just give you my phone.
Well, good call.
And I just told them if they need me, call me. Yeah, two IFBs don't work. Good time to find out.
What was wrong with them?
Well, I couldn't hear them. So they give me one, they assign me another one, didn't work, so then they gave me that one.
So that means it's that deal that's not working, or what?
Well, there's another one at the station, the banks aren't working for some reason. Question is, do we get kicked out at 5:30?
Oh, that's a good question, actually.
Yeah.
We're an hour away from that. Huh.
Yeah, they were King, Alexander King, and Thomas.
Have you guys been being kicked out at 5:30?
Third shift,
All the other days?
actually the second shift on the street. First day was Saturday, he spent it in the precinct. Second day, Sunday. Third day, Monday that day. Thomas Lane was 1 day ahead of him. And, you know, they did try to present this command structure in the MPD, and the defense tried to create a paramilitary structure of the police department. Obviously, there's some of those elements in the police force, where you have drills and some of that goes with the territory. They were trying to think that it was going beyond that, being what was for such this fear of incrimination of someone who is a superior officer. The prosecution pointing out here that they were all officers. Derek Chauvin didn't have a higher rank, but the defense brought on some of the witnesses that said that realistically, though, the more experienced officers are deferred to as senior officers being in command, and that being Derek Chauvin coming in and taking over. So there were a couple of parallel arguments as well making that. One is that was there a fear of intervening in Derek Chauvin? They asked on that. There would have been in the testimony of the three officers here, convicted former officers. They didn't say it explicitly, but they just said, yes, here's Scott still on probation.
Yeah, can you hear me? At one point, yeah, but I think it was after you brought Tom Heffelfinger in.
Especially as rookies, a few days out of the street, the respect that they have for the decisions made by those with more experience, especially
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, at the end when it was, I mean, I suppose.
And if necessary, to put bombers in the air.
Thank you. Sanction Putin now. Sanction Putin now. Sanction Putin now.
Sanction Putin now! 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 Sanction Putin now!
Sanction Putin now.
Americans, I want you to know that Ukrainians will never give up their lands. Never! And Crimea and Donbass will always be Ukraine. Always! Crimea is Ukraine!
Crimea is Ukraine!
Donbass is Ukraine!
Donbass is Ukraine!
Crimea is Ukraine!
Crimea is Ukraine!
Donbass is Ukraine!
Donbass is Ukraine!
Crimea is Ukraine!
Crimea is Ukraine!
Donbass is Ukraine!
Donbass is Ukraine!
Yesterday, Putin, because I cannot call him a president. President, it's a nice job for decent people. He is not a president. He is a war criminal.
Yes.
Yesterday, Putin demanded that Ukraine will abandon its plans to NATO. It will never happen. He demanded the recognition of Crimea as a Russian territory. It will never happen because Crimea is Ukraine and Crimean Tatars want to live in Ukraine. So that's why we stand with Crimean Tatars. They're tortured and persecuted by Russia right now. A lot of them are in prison. So I don't want you to be silent. I want you to stand for Crimean Tatars. Biden, I want you to know that Crimea will be and is Ukraine. Crimea is Ukraine.
Crimea is Ukraine!
Crimea is Ukraine! Crimea is Ukraine! Crimea is Ukraine! Crimea is Ukraine! Crimea is Ukraine! Crimea is Ukraine! Crimea is Ukraine!
Crimea is Ukraine!
If anyone wants to talk, come over here. We will actually give you the microphone. Come over here to talk.
It's not Russia.
Да, ви натискаєте тут і робіть прямо.
This is my 5th time in this square.
since January 1st. I came here 5 times together with some of you. Sometimes there were just 2 of us. Sometimes there were hundreds of us, like today. We were asking for 2 things all this time: meaningful defense weapons for Ukraine and harsh sanctions for Ukraine, including cutting off SWIFT. 5 times we came, we asked for it. Yesterday, when I called my mom in Ukraine to tell her that the war began, and when she was talking to me, she said, "Synochku, I have to leave because there is a siren going on. I have to go hide in a basement." I realized I didn't do enough. We should have been coming more. We should have been asking for more. But more importantly, this administration should have done more. There should have been sanctions imposed sooner. Sanctions that were announced today should have been stricter. There should be a SWIFT cutoff. There should be energy embargo. Stricter sanctions is probably the most meaningful, immediate way this country can help Ukraine, can help my mom, can help my dad, can help my sister, can help your families and loved ones and friends to avoid being killed and destroyed. Please ask your neighbors, ask your representatives to do something, whatever they can, to have this administration impose stricter, harsher sanctions, which they can do. They just chose not to. Cut Russia off SWIFT. 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 Cut Russia off SWIFT.
We invite everyone who wants to stand for Ukraine, who wants to say a word for Ukraine. Come over here, talk.
Говоріть тільки прямо в мікрофон, тут так, прямо так.